We now finally know which game the initiative is working on. Quick Resume has been updated and now will work on all next-gen games, and Xbox consoles are the cornerstone for Microsoft. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Thank you for stopping by. If you're new here and you enjoy what you see throughout this video, hey, maybe consider subscribing to help this channel grow, help grow this community, and we can continue to have great conversations in the comments below. But for now, let's jump into this. So the Game Awards just happened. It was a super long show, but one of the big announcements that came out of it was that Perfect Dark is the game that the initiative is working on. Now, there were tons of rumors about what the initiative was actually working on. The latest one was they were working on a third-person action game, and then before that, Perfect Dark rumors were coming out, but it has been confirmed that that rumor of Perfect Dark that was previously talked about all over Twitter and everything like that is the correct rumor. So they showed off this trailer talking about their vision for Perfect Dark and how it's going to be a reimagining of this series. So it's going to be a reboot, and they're talking about how they need to balance the old stuff from the game that still kind of stands out today with the weapons, with the gadgets, and then how can they bring in some new thoughts and some new things into the Perfect Dark world. They also talk about how they want this game to kind of hold itself up towards movies and TVs in its cinematic style. So I think there's going to be a pretty high production value on this game. It's probably going to have tons of cutscenes, probably going to just have a ton of high value cinematics that we're going to see throughout the entire experience, which is definitely something that I would say that the Xbox Game Studios is missing right now in their portfolio. No matter how you feel about those style of games, it's definitely a style of game that is missing right now. And I think Perfect Dark in the world that they're trying to build here could be a great way to get that into the portfolio. So this world is going to be in a near future world with corporate crime, with evil corporations adding new technology that's kind of breaking down the world, adding to the bad environment and stuff like that. So you're playing as a secret agent who needs to go out and defeat these evil corporations. Now, some cool things that they also talked about was the movement in this game. They talked about parkour, sort of. They didn't say the word parkour, but they talked about how you're going to be moving, sliding, jumping, and how the camera really wants to follow you like you are wearing a GoPro on your head. I'm imagining you being able to climb up buildings, jump up buildings, jumping from balconies, sliding on their stuff, kind of lots of parkour that's going to make it a really fast-paced, fun moving style of game. They also talk about balancing it being a first-person shooter with some stealth elements and just overall movement. So it sounds like it's really cool, but it's still very, very early in development. They even say that they are early. The initiative is a new studio, so it takes a lot of time to build up these studios and to build a project from scratch. But they've been doing a lot about bringing in talent from different studios. So we look here, they hired Last of Us 2 devs for the studio, and Last of Us 2 pretty much mopped up the Game Awards. Now, for some people, they hated Last of Us 2. Some people loved it. So, I mean, people have mixed feelings on how they feel about that. Then they also talk about here how they've hired more people from Naughty Dog, from Respawn, from Bioware. So they've been taking some of the best talents from these other studios around the world, and they've brought them into the initiative. So I'm really excited what they're going to be able to pull out from these developers, from these creative minds, and how they're going to be able to use all that information that they have from the previous Perfect Dark with their own imaginative stuff and create a brand new Perfect Dark world. So I would say this was probably one of the biggest announcements that we got, definitely from Xbox. I'd say this is the biggest announcement because now we finally know what the initiative is working on. All the rumors can be put to rest. It's going to be a brand new Perfect Dark universe. I'm hoping that this game has a release date at least by 2022. I'm thinking that we'll see more for it at the summer, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping it's not like a 2025 release, because the way that they made it sound right at the beginning was that it's going to still be a long time before it comes out. But I'm assuming they've been working on it for a decent amount of time now. They obviously have the vision of what they want, the environment they want the game set in, and the style of gameplay that they are going for. But yeah, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Are you excited about this reboot for Perfect Dark, or are you disappointed that they're not working on a brand new IP? Now, this is a welcomed patch coming to Xboxes hopefully soon. It's in the alpha preview right now, but basically Quick Resume is being rolled out for all the next-gen Xbox Series X's and S's, and it seems like it's going to be fixing that feature for all the next-gen games. As we know, Quick Resume is one of the killer features on Xbox, allows you to flip between multiple games in a matter of seconds, and you leave off right where you left when you pause the game or whenever you left it. And I've used it. It works still on a bunch of games, and I think it's a really, really good feature. I think as we move on through this generation, as with Game Pass, with stuff like that, you are going to want to use Quick Resume all the time. I still use it right now. It was in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, then they removed it, and now it's back. They will be rolling this out because currently it is now in the preview update for the Xbox Insiders, and it's in the Alpha Skip Ahead program. And here are the system update details about Quick Resume being added. I'm thinking this will be out relatively soon, in the next couple of weeks or so. So if you're somebody who has been missing quick resume on a game that you're playing, it will be back relatively soon. Now, this was an interesting story that it came upon, and it's talking how Microsoft believes that the Xbox consoles have become the cornerstone and the foundation of their strategy going forward. So this generation, we're jumping into it, and we're pretty much in the digital age now. Although the PS5 and the Xbox Series X both have a disc version, I think we're really going to start to see the amount of people who actually buy physical games get down to a very low percentage compared to people who start buying digital fully. So as we move through the next generation, the question starts to arise, especially with the implementation of cloud gaming, if we are going to continue to get consoles in our homes for the next 2, 3, 4 generations going forward. And I think if we do, they're just going to be streaming devices. And my previous thoughts were that this generation is probably going to be the last generation of actual physical consoles. And if we do get anything moving forward, it's going to be things like a streaming stick or xCloud, or just a small set-top box or streaming through xCloud. Or if anything, maybe if they're still going to create a physical console where you can download games, just a tiny box with a big SSD inside or something like that, so it's extremely fast. But it seems like for Microsoft, they're kind of looking at it differently, as now Xbox consoles are the cornerstone of their strategy going forward. So when asked about the future of consoles, the Xbox Chief Financial Officer Tim Stewart had this to say about where he sees consoles and how it fits into their strategy. I think over the 20 years that I've been here, we've sort of said that this is the last console generation for a while. But really what it turns into is the console becomes the cornerstone and the foundation of our strategy. The console has a world where 3,000 games work on the console, and to Catherine's point, you can lift and shift those teams into xCloud. You can stream them out of the gate. What I think he is saying here is that the consoles allow a lot of teams to make games for them, and then they can easily just grab those games that they've made for the Xbox Series X or for the Xbox Series S, add them to their database, add them to their streaming, and then you can play them through xCloud. And that's going to be something that they want to continue going forward. Obviously with xCloud probably going to be one of the major things they focus on for years to come. Goes on to say here, you can put them in Azure data centers, reach 90% of the world's gamers with the geo footprint we have because of the strength in console, having the content pipeline, which I know we'll talk about in a second, having games built, having the community of players there. That console piece of the business is so important to have out of the gate, which we're very excited about. So pretty much saying that getting people buying into the Xbox ecosystem through consoles right when they're released in the new generation is very, very important. We saw some numbers in my last video where Xbox Game Pass has more than doubled since the release of the Xbox Series X and S, and that 40% of new people who have never been an Xbox before are coming in through the Xbox Series S, which is the cheaper console with the less hardware, but they just want that console to get access to the Xbox ecosystem. So those are the type of numbers that he's kind of referring to here when they release a new console, that they still have to have that base console, whether it's the Xbox Series X being a high powered one or the less powered one with the Xbox Series S, just to get people into it, get them hyped up for Xbox, get them into that ecosystem. And that's a great start, where then once you get people playing in the Xbox ecosystem, you have games that are built for it, which can be transferred over to Azure and to xCloud, which then opens up the footprint of the amount of people that can experience games from the Xbox Game Studios and from any Xbox game or any game on the Xbox Game Pass. He also talks about the generation and how it's different than previous generations, saying, but yes, it's a very different cycle. One of the things I'd highlight here too, but some of the differences is when this time around, we think about console as a piece of the puzzle as opposed to the puzzle. We're not doing things like Halo Infinite exclusive to the next gen consoles, but we're doing things like making our controller exclusive to these generational consoles, which really puts the user at the center. And this is obviously a much different strategy than Nintendo and then PlayStation, because PlayStation and Nintendo is the console is the centerpiece of everything in their ecosystem, where obviously with Xbox it's completely different. And I like what he says here about the controllers being exclusive rather than the consoles, because I have been using my Xbox One controller a ton on my Xbox Series X, on my Xbox Series S. I even sometimes, when I play xCloud, use it to stream games. Depending on where I am, what controller is available, that's the one I use. But people use Xbox controllers on PC, people use them on Android, and they're always going to be used for xCloud games. Even though you can use any Bluetooth controller, I would say the majority of people are probably going to be using an Xbox controller or some sort of Xbox attachment for their phone. Continues saying here, we think about an ecosystem not unlike Netflix talks about subscribers or Facebook talks about monthly active users. We think about that ecosystem and that community of users of which console is important. But growth at Microsoft and growth in the category is all about PC. It's all about mobile. It's all about geo expansion. How do you get into Africa and India? How do you create new business models? console helps us establish that, and console is so important for us to win in. But that really creates that foundation of where we're going. So yeah, that's some of the important stuff he says about the geo expansion and reaching as many people as possible. And a console can be a definitely entry into that, especially if it's a lower priced console like the Xbox Series S. You'll get a lot of people just picking that up in order to jump into the ecosystem, because they don't really care about having that high powered, high fidelity console where you're playing games in 4K at 60 FPS. They just want something that they can get access to the ecosystem for. And I think cheaper price consoles or streaming boxes or anything like that going forward we'll definitely still see. I'm still a bit skeptical of whether we'll see like another Xbox Series X in the next generation, but they may do it because they still want to appease people like me, or appease people who are early adopters or want the bleeding edge in console technology, and who want to be able to play games at the highest fidelity at the highest frame rate without having to drop like $2,000 to $3,000 on a PC. Because if you think about the Xbox Series X, if you think about the technology in it and what you're getting for $500 US, it's pretty remarkable what they are giving us as consumers. It's a big upgrade from last generation, and I've said this before, so you can't really go wrong with the Xbox Series X, or really with the Xbox Series S for that matter, for what you're getting for $300. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the initiative working on a reboot for Perfect Dark. Let me know what you think about Quick Resume coming back to next generation games. Have you been missing it? Has your game that you've been using not have it available right now? And let me know what you think about Xbox and it being a cornerstone for Microsoft. And do you think there will be Xbox consoles in future generations of video games? Thank you guys all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here and you enjoyed what you saw throughout this video, hey, maybe consider subscribing if you want to continue having great conversations about Xbox, PlayStation, the video game industry, and just building a great community and having these discussions in the comments below. I really appreciate all your support, and I will catch you in the next video.